Dear friends, welcome to the next session for Information Security Fundamentals. In today's session, we will be going through various aspects related to network communication. So let us get started. So network communication essentially means sharing of information in a local or a remote mode. When we are talking about a local mode of sharing of information, it means that we are sharing our information in a face-to-face manner or within a particular radius. Remote, however, it takes place over a distance. It might either be telephony, telegraphy or television, etc. So when we are talking about remote communication, essentially the internet concept comes into picture for network communications. So basically, before we dive into further details regarding to network and its communication, we need to understand that what type of information or what is it that we are actually exchanging between systems or between various users. So the first thing we need to understand is the data. The data is known as the raw facts and figures. So basically this data can be termed as those set of values or those set of facts and figures which do not follow any type of pattern or initially do not have any meaning associated to it, either from the perspective of any analysis or from the perspective of business. So there is no such meaning or there is no such underlying associations related to any of the aspects. So whatever we share on a random basis or on a regular basis, we can term it as data. The second important terminology is the information. Information is basically nothing but your processed data. So whatever we are sending randomly, it might be a set of numbers, it might be a set of letters, it might be a set of words, or it might be some pictures, or it might be certain videos. So all of them, when we actually process to generate some meaning out of it, we call it as information. So whenever we are processing the data that we are about to share, either in relating with some of the aspects or we are associating meaning to those data, then we call it as information. The third important terminology related to network communication is basically data communication. So this data communication is the exchange of data between two different devices via some sort of transmission medium such as a wire cable. Now, when we are talking about sending data or sending information from one system to another system or one device to another device or one user to another user, there has to be some sort of medium through which the data will travel. In case of wired medium, it involves various cables, and in case of wireless medium, there are various networks which are available through which you can send your data. The primary requirement of this data communication through network or the data communication or sharing of information through the network is basically that communicating devices should be a part of the communication system which is composed of a physical equipment, hardware and the software. So basically communication system together, it consists of the hardware and the software, and these are the primary requirement for sending a particular data or information across an area to a remote device or within a particular radius. So we have to understand these important terminologies before we actually move in deeper into the network communication concept. Now, how do we say that it is a good communication system? The data that is being sent is actually, we are sending it through a very good communication system. So this good communication system is defined by four major Properties of the communication system. The first is the delivery. The delivery essentially means the system must deliver the data to the correct destination and should be received by the correct receiver as well as sent by the appropriate sender. In our previous few sessions, we talked about DDoS attack. So when we talk about DDoS attack, in that particular attack, we have certain bots or zombies in the network which will be sending out misleading packets or useless packets into the network or useless messages into the network, and the server has to attend to those particular messages. So while the server is busy attending to those messages, the requests or the messages which are coming in from the actual sender or an appropriate sender are missed and they are not answered, so which leads to an unavailability of the server to the appropriate users. So when we are talking about a good communication system, we have to make sure that the system goes through a proper mechanism by which the data is delivered to the correct destination or correct system, and it is received by the correct receiver and as well as sent by a correct sender or an appropriate sender. It should not be any bot or zombies in the network. So this will, if this is not looked after, then the integrity issues and unavailability issues will, as well as confidentiality issues will also come in. The next important characteristic of a good communication system is accuracy. So whatever data is delivered, it should be correct. That means there should be no manipulation or modification of the data while the sender is sending it or the receiver is receiving it. The next important characteristic is timeliness. So it should follow real-time transmission, that is, it should deliver the data as and when produced. Data delivered late are of no use. For example, video and audio. So most of us use certain downloaders or softwares to download audio or video from the internet, and this audio or videos, they usually get downloaded in the form of certain smaller frames. Not the entire video doesn't get downloaded altogether. So these frames initially get downloaded in our system and then they are rearranged to give us the complete video in a sequential manner. Now what if some of the frames are not delivered at the correct time? So if it is not delivered at the correct time or during that particular time when the other frames were also getting downloaded, so it will be of no use even if the video frame or audio frame gets downloaded at a later stage. So the communication system must make sure that it delivers the correct data at the real time or correct time. So next and the final point is jitter. So jitter is a variation in the packet arrival time, that is uneven delay in the delivery of audio or video packets. So whatever delay is incurred in a particular download of a video or an audio, so of the packets, we call it as a jitter. Suppose there are 2-3 packets which are getting downloaded at one time. So what is the difference between the downloading time of packet 1 with respect to packet 3 and packet 2 with respect to packet 1? So all those things will be calculated, all those delays rather would be calculated under jitter. Now talking about the components of a data communication system. So initially we have certain components, and further when we move deeper into this concept, we will find out that there are other associated concepts also related to this. So let us look at the preliminary components of a data communication system. So basically it should have a sender who will send the messages, receiver who will receive the messages. There has to be a transmission medium through which the sender will be sending the messages to the receiver, and if there is no message, then this entire communication system is of no use. So definitely there has to be a message that needs to be transferred over the transmission medium, and this message transfer or this data transfer will be depending upon the protocols. So protocols are basically the guidelines or the policies or rules and regulations that we talked about in our initial few classes. So basically message is the data or information that needs to be communicated. Popular forms of data, that means generally we send data in the form of text, numbers, pictures, audio, video, etc. The other component is the sender. The sender is the device that sends the message. It can be a computer, a workstation, a telephone handset, a video camera, etc. The third important component is the receiver, because we have the message, we have the sender, and the sender will definitely send the message to the receiver. So the receiver is a device which receives the message, and it can exactly be like the sender. That means it can be a computer, workstation, a telephone, a video camera, etc. And the fourth important aspect is the transmission medium. So transmission medium is a physical path by which the message travels from sender to receiver. Generally we have twisted pair wire, coaxial cable, fiber optic cable, and radio waves. So these are the transmission medium for a physical system. However, for a wireless system we have separate set of terminologies associated or aspects associated to this. So now we will talk about the data representation. So in our previous slide we saw that the data can be transferred either in the form of text or audio or video or numbers or pictures, etc. So text is basically, data is basically represented in 5 different formats, which is text, numbers, images, audio, and video. These are the generic representations of data which can be sent as a message. So basically let us talk about text first. Text is represented as a bit pattern, and different sets of bit patterns are designed to represent the text symbols, and each set is called a code. The process of representing the symbols is called coding. And generally the prevalent coding system is Unicode, which uses 32 bits to represent a symbol or a character used in any language in the world. So whatever we are sending as a bit pattern, a Unicode bit pattern of 32 bit size, so it is known as the text. The next important data representation is the number. So basically we use ASCII code or American Standard Code for information interchange in order to represent our text symbols or alphabets. So numbers, however, do not depend upon ASCII in order to represent them. So numbers are basically used or represented using the binary system. Binary system is basically representation of one number into a form which is represented by zeros and ones. As we already know from our previous knowledge that computers can recognize only ones and zeros, so everything has to be converted into ones and zeros before the computer can actually understand it in order to process it. So numbers basically they are represented using this binary system. If you represent the number 2 in binary, it will be basically 0 0 1 0. So this we will see in some of our later sessions, that how to convert it The next is images. So images are represented in bit patterns, primarily termed as pixels. So pixels are composed of resolutions, example 1000 or 10,000 pixels in RGB or YCM format. And 10,000 pixels are a better representation, but memory is a major criteria. So images are also represented using this bit pattern, and we use pixels in order to represent images. So text we use the Unicode, numbers we use binary system, and images we use pixels in order to represent the entire image. So next we are talking about audio, which is the next data representation. Audio is basically recording or broadcasting of sound or music, and it is a continuous process. In our previous data representations, which are text, numbers and images, we can say that they are not a continuous process. However, in audio data representation, essentially it needs to be a continuous process. Without the continuation of the representation, it is of no use. So basically audio signals are analog signals, and they have to convert it into a digital form or digital representation in order to represent that particular data, so that we can represent it in the computer system, and we can transfer that particular data or audio. The next important data representation is the video. So video is basically a recording or broadcasting of picture or movie, and it is a continuous process. Hence, analog signals are required to be converted into digital for representation purpose. So video is also similar to audio. However, it involves frames of data or frames of images associated, and it is also a continuous process and analog in nature, and we have to convert this analog into a digital form for representation purpose. Talking about the data flow now. So we talked about what is data, then we talked about how we can represent this data. Now we need to know about how this data is transmitted or transferred. So basically it is governed by a concept known as data flow, and data flow can be either of simplex, half duplex and full duplex mode. So when we are talking about the simplex mode, if you look into this diagram, the communication is unidirectional as a one-way street. That means the direction of the data is from the mainframe towards the computer, but it is not the other way around. The vice versa is not possible. Only one of the two devices can transmit and other can receive. So we call this computer as the receiver, and this will be the sender. The vice versa will not be possible. For example, the keyboard which can transmit and the monitor that can receive of your system. So the entire capacity of the channel is to send the data in one direction. It can never be that monitor can represent or monitor can send data to the keyboard. Only the keyboard can send the data to the monitor. So this is the simplex mode of data flow. The next is the half duplex. So in this mode, both the stations can transmit or receive, but not at the same time. For example, when we are talking about a walkie-talkie, talking in a walkie-talkie. So in a walkie-talkie, two persons, if they are communicating via a walkie-talkie, one person has to speak at one particular point of time. At that point of time, the other person is blocked. So the entire capacity of the channel is taken over by whichever of the two systems is transmitting at that time. Suppose station 1 is sending the data, or station 1 is transferring the data. At that point, station 2 cannot transmit the data. Now, when station 2 is transmitting the data, station 1 will not be able to transmit or communicate. So this is used in cases where there is no need of communication in both the directions at the same time. So as already understood, this is basically like a simplex mode from both the ends. So one can send the data, the other has to stop and receive it. While the other person is sending the data, the previous person has to stop and receive it. Both of them cannot communicate together. Now, talking about the full duplex mode, this is also called the duplex, where both the systems can transmit and receive simultaneously. So basically the signals going on one direction share the capacity of the link with signals going in the other direction. So we can take the example of a telephone network. So when we are talking in a telephone or in a telephonic call, both of us, the caller and the receiver, so both of them can talk together at the same time, and both of their data would be transmitted through that particular signal. So the signals going in one direction share the capacity of the link with signals going in the other direction. So whatever the link is there between both of them, it is actually shared by both station 1 and 2 at the same point of time. So sharing, basically the link has to contain two physically separate transmission paths, and the capacity of the channel is divided between signal traveling in both directions. And it is used when communication is required in both ends. For example, telephone network. So now we will talk about the network architecture. So when we are looking at the architecture, it refers to how the computers are organized in a system and how the tasks are allocated between these computers. So two of the most widely used types of network are peer-to-peer and client server. So peer-to-peer, basically, if you talk in layman's term, it is like friends to friends, and client server is basically an architecture which is also called tiered because it uses multiple levels. So we will talk about network architecture in detail in our subsequent session. So this is all for today. Thank you.